This is Masters of the Market. I'm Johnson Andrews.
And I'm Eric Clary. Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Danny Zzzz, and welcome to Masters of the Market. I am your host, and I'm sitting with Eric and Johnson. We have so many things to talk about today. How are you, gentlemen?
That was a good new
That caught me so off guard. It was because it was so good. Because I'm new to this. Eric's new to this.
Was it because I said gentlemen that threw you off?
It might have.
Okay.
Like my mom says that every once
So
in
we
a
can
while.
get right into it from here, though, right?
Yeah,
Like, just
that's right.
jump on in.
I have a million questions for the both of you.
We got some stuff for you too.
Oh, all right.
But you go ahead. You go ahead.
What do you think of the market today? Like, the honest answer is things are up and down, and the reality is real estate is nowhere where we thought it would be in 2023. What do we got coming? What's the next of the 6 months look like with the interest rates going up?
Well, interest rates held today, right? So the rate stayed at 5 from the BOC, which is Bank of Canada, which is good news. Now, August was a really slow month. Like sales volume, just activity, listings, everything was down.
Don't you think everybody was kind of just waiting to see what would happen? Like,
Yeah,
let's be
and it's a
honest.
slow month. Historically, it's always a slow month.
Everybody buys in September. They want to get the kids set up for the new school or do whatever. August, you're enjoying the holidays.
It's
The real
holidays,
estate market
vacation.
gets tight. Yeah, of course.
100%. So, like the next 6 months, from a personal standpoint, based on some quantitative analysis, of course, I would say I think September, October is going to be pretty good, right? I mean, I think the market's actually been doing okay for the last 8 months.
It's
definitely
leveled
not what we
off.
thought,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But we were on a 6 month run there where prices were up, and then it fell a little bit. And when I say fell, maybe the benchmark price went down 20, 30 G's, nothing crazy. So I think, do I think there's no dark days ahead of us over the next year, 2, 3? No. I think there's going to be some people that are going to really struggle, as we're already seeing right now with, with mortgages and rates and renewing. So, I mean, that's something this guy could talk way more about than me. But, I think there's still a lot of optimism, but there'll have to be a lot pivoting, right? There's going to have to be a lot of...
I think the buyers have changed.
Yeah.
If you went back 30 years, 40 years, you're going to see the stereotypical husband and wife show up, and the husband being, I like the garage, I like this, and single income family. Now you're looking at people who are making those purchases, and it doesn't matter if you're going from Fort Erie to Toronto, you're a dual income house. Like it's the cash flow behind it that's required. I mean, even to get a mortgage now, it's $1 million mortgage. Even here in Niagara, you need dual income and a good down payment. The game's changed.
And that's the biggest thing that we see on the mortgage side. Even if you have two strong incomes, it still becomes difficult to qualify given where the stress tests are at, because you're qualifying at interest rates of 8% or higher. So a lot of the times, and I would say on over half the deals I do, when it comes to the financing end of it, you're seeing gifted down payments and significant ones.
Yeah.
Like there's even last week, I had 2 deals with $1 million gifts. And a lot of it's coming from the fact that parents were very debt averse. They bought homes cheap, typically stayed there, lived there, and they've seen
up
massive
600%,
appreciation, right? And then now they're watching their kids unable to get into a home due to how hard it is to qualify. And you're seeing lots more gifts.
But I don't even think it's just about qualification. I'm a proud father of 5, and we've all been through the education system. And I can tell you right now that and I'm not picking on the educators, but we're not taught about how credit works or how the debt ratio works.
At all.
Not
You're
in
getting a
university,
20-year-old
not in
who
high
gets,
school,
that's
or-
right, they got a Visa or a MasterCard, and they're out and they're loading it up. They're not paying their cell phone bills on time. They're delayed. They're delinquent on some things. Then the time comes that they settle down. They find that significant other, and they're trying to get qualified. And they got all these black marks that nobody told them about. So that if they don't have a family member to lean on, they're screwed.
That's the biggest thing. Like I have my undergrad and master's in finance. When I got into the mortgage industry as an underwriter, like the little troll in the basement that gets everyone approved, even when I first started looking at deals, I even said to myself, what the hell am I looking at? This was never taught to me. I could do calculus, could price a stock, could do that for days on end. But then when looking at the simple math of like gross debt servicing, total debt servicing, I had never understood it or known how it worked. And for me, that was something that I saw as an opportunity to get into the market to educate people. Because going back to what you said, a lot of our financial habits when it comes to credit get passed down through generations of parents. right? And so if your parents
Dinner
maybe
dogs,
didn't
dinner
have the
dogs.
best habits, you likely won't either, unless you had an outside source that maybe you leaned on or had a mentor in that sense,
The
right?
credit card companies are aggressive. I mean, they'll give you $1,000 credit card walking past the bank. So
If you have a pulse.
So that's right. So somebody who's been employed even for 3 months and qualify for the new points card that they can get, they fall into the trap, and they don't have an income to carry that debt even regularly. So they're paying the minimum payment. They're carrying $1,000 debt load. They're even missing that sometimes, and they don't understand it's going to take years to correct that.
And a credit card it's actually quite simple, right? Like you know, not to toot my horn, but I got my first credit card at 19. And honest to God, I've paid interest 3 times. And I was a student for 5 years. Now I would leverage my student line of credit to make a payment on my credit card. I worked 30 hours a week at TELUS, so I did okay.
You're
But
a minority, though. That's not a common.
no, it isn't. But
Of course.
that helped me. I got approved for I bought a brand new car in 3rd year. I bought a brand new Civic. Got approved for the loan on my own. Didn't need a cosigner. So and I guarantee you that the correlation to that approval was because I had a 3-4 year history of just paying my
Consistent
credit card.
history, of course.
So it can really be something. And then you got parents who are like, oh, my kids aren't getting credit cards. And then they don't have a credit
So you're
history to do
sheltering
anything
them.
on their own. So
That's right.
there needs to be, it goes right back to what you said. Like if like I have 2 children, my kids are 4 and 5, so a long ways away from getting credit cards. Unless their mother.
No, you'll give them the old authorized user, I'm sure. But
Like if again, there's just such simple things that you can teach your kids, or even not even kids. Like there's a lot of people that adults that just need a little push in the right direction, and it can make such a difference in various aspects of their life. It's actually quite wild.
Okay, so I'm Mr. X and my wife, Mrs. Y, come to you, and they want to get a mortgage. They're first-time home buyers, which obviously gives them some advantage, but they're still in their late 20s, early 30s, first marriage. Okay.
Separated as well.
Okay. Yeah, they're on their first marriage, and they're coming to you thinking, we've paid our bills, we've saved a little money, but they still don't necessarily qualify. If you're going to give somebody advice on how to get a mortgage, that first-time buyers, I mean, you just got married and you got that windfall from all your aunts and uncles that put $500 in the envelope. It's not enough.
Yeah.
I want to buy a house in 2 years. I'm just recently married. I've just set up. What's my advice? What should I be doing in order to help me pre-qualify?
So the biggest thing is down payment, because that's the first hurdle that you have to get over, because you have to bring some skin to the game when it comes to getting yourself a mortgage. Whenever you think about a purchase price, it's made up of 2 things. It's your funds for the down payment and then the amount that you qualify for. Now, when looking at the person's ability to get financing, even if you're looking at it, say 2 years down the line, it's still in a conversation that I encourage, because then we can look at your profile, put together a game plan or a roadmap in terms of a savings rate to get to your down payment for when you feel as if you're going to be ready to buy. But we can also identify any roadblocks, like maybe some consumer debt that can be drawing down the amount that you're going to get approved
That
for.
debt, though, people don't understand that paying your credit card off doesn't mean that you're without that debt. If you have a $20,000 credit card that's at 0, the bank still looks at it as you owe $20,000.
And you're going to go out and spend it tomorrow.
Case by case,
Yes.
by case, but that is historically the truth. A lot of banks now are moving towards the balance, not the limit, which has helped. Just because when you think about your actual credit score, if you are trying to improve it, one of the ways that you can do that is by increasing your overall approved limit, because that would then lower your theoretical utilization, right? Yeah. So that's something in which when you're trying to establish credit, you want those higher limits, but you don't want to use it because that's going to show your score getting much higher quicker, right? To me, going back to the whole credit card thing, I think that's one major issue that I always see, because if you have that balance, it is something that even when I talk to someone, going back to say creating a roadmap to buy, that it becomes difficult to pay off, right? Because when you start looking at it, if you're a salaried individual and you have $10,000 on your credit card, right? Well, you've already shown that when it comes to the budgeting, that your overall funds available for discretionary spending, you spend more than it, because that's why you've used the credit card. Well, the rate on that's 20%, right? So if your income's not appreciating at the same level, you're never going to catch up to the balance that you owe.
Facts.
So that's why when looking at that, one of the first things, even before, say, a down payment, is we want to get the existing debt levels under control, because that's really what's going to deteriorate your servicing ability when it comes to a mortgage.
I think equally now, so I've bought the house, or I'm ready to buy the house. I've got my finances together. I look at the industry in the last 20 years and how it's changed, because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, everyone was being driven to get into tech. And a lot of people did very well with tech, don't get me wrong. But we live in an industry right now where the laborers, the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, all of those people, it's a saturated market of tech people. And we're low on those skilled laborers. And my father was a carpenter. So I grew up understanding the trades, and I worked in the trades. When I go to buy a house and I walk in, if you don't understand that skill set, or you don't have somebody in your pocket that's going to walk through, it's easy to be taken advantage of in the real estate market by buying a lemon, because you don't have that. And if you did buy a lemon, trying to find a reasonably priced contractor to correct those shortcomings is tough.
Because at the end of the day, when it comes back to the skilled trades, there's a finite number of trades available right now, because they're aging out. Not a lot of the younger generations is filling those gaps.
Of course.
So then they're always in demand for their services. So that's why they can charge so much more money.
Well, there's a problem, right? Everyone's pushed to go get these degrees that, no offense, or some of them are really meaningless.
Sure.
And there's a lot of good degrees. Like, if you want to be in a specific field, obviously there's stepping stones from an educational perspective that are required. Doctors and lawyers, blah, 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 you name it. So you're right. There's this huge need. Like, I've got a close friend that's an electrician, and he's 28 years old, and he does some cool stuff. He fixes like robots and like the bigger sort of industrial warehouses, and then he does, residential, electrical, and commercial. But like just hearing that, who was dedicated, like at like 19, the amount of people in his life that tried to push him to go get a degree or go to college instead of being an electrician. You know what I mean? It's wild to hear that, because going back, you're talking 30-year time frames. So let's go back to 1990 to 1995. Like, getting into a trade was everything. Everything. Like, you were like,
and your family was all into the trades. Your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles. So you had someone to lean on.
Sure.
And when I look at my circle, I'm a tradesperson that today, before I came to host this show, before I came here, I'm a business owner, a father, an entertainer. I have many, many hats. I was doing a weeping tile at somebody's house today because they're a friend of mine and needed the help, because it's not out there. So I think that as a father, you said you have two beautiful children of your own. I think as a father, it's important for us who have that skill set to not force, but really push our children into at least understanding what they're going against. To take it back to my original question, because at some point your son or your daughter are going to say, I want to buy a house. When we went and looked in this one, and the first thing that you're going to say is, how's the foundation? What's the roof look like? What's the electrical panel like?
And I'm going to call you to come when my kids have to do that, because I don't know any of it.
See what we've raised?
If you're not the best at it, outsource.
We're about to flip the script. We're going to actually go back to being hosts.
There we go.
We normally do.
Shouldn't we cut?
Thank you.
Like,
I just got 15 minutes off. I feel good.
That's
I'm relaxed. So, Danny Z, this show, we didn't just do this because everyone was doing a podcast, right? Like, not that this first half of this conversation wasn't excellent, and you asked some great questions, and hopefully we gave some good answers. But we're here to try to inspire people to from a multi sort of faceted standpoint, like you said, wearing multiple hats. Obviously, you've accomplished a lot of cool stuff in your life, and I think there's a huge percentage of people out there that are just like, well, I've got kids, or I got this, or I got that. I can't do this, or I can't leave my day job. And maybe this is kind of repetitive, but that's what the show is. It's to have people like you come in and just talk about challenges, because it's not all pretty and people cheering you on, and it's like every day's a win. Like, there's a lot of punches and kicks to the face.
Sure.
And then there's a great day, or maybe there's a great week or month, whatever it may be. So tell us a little bit about, I know you've been on America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent.
I have done
So that's
11
pretty cool.
Got Talent so far.
So how does that work in terms of the different Got Talents? So is it actually you can only go and perform within the country you reside, or is it open to anyone?
Yeah.
And then how do you get in? Do you go and you wait all day, or do you have an in to get in there without waiting that long because of how good you are?
No.
Yeah.
am a freak. So I think that if you do something that nobody else will do, it's easy to get on the shows. And I'm that one guy that does stuff that nobody else in the world does. Okay. So I'm pretty fortunate. I'm an extreme escape artist, so I do the most ridiculous things. And because of that, there's just not a lot of people that would like to really be close to death.
Okay, sorry to cut. You said escape artist.
Yeah.
I thought earlier you said you were trapped in that seat with the mic and you couldn't go get chips. So
well,
I thought as an escape artist, you could probably get you didn't get that on camera, guys. He wanted the chips.
No, I was just trying to have a good impression. So the honest answer is I could get up now.
I saw an opportunity. I took it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I have worn many hats, as a lot of us do. Yeah. I mean, we get jobs when we're young and we work through life. And at this point in my career, I'm fortunate that I found the Got Talent franchise. And as an escape artist, you probably couldn't tell me one other name of an escape artist in the world. No. Harry Houdini, who's passed.
That was the only one that I could have actually
thought because of that, there's so few of us that the work is easier found because of that. I mean, I still have to hold my breath, or I got.
That's what I mean. So tank gets filled up with water, and you're like doing.
You still got to do all that stuff. So I'm a little bit unbalanced because of it.
Anxiety.
But it's taken not just me, but my family all over the world, and
that's been challenging, but also great and rewarding, I'm sure.
To answer your question, where this started from, I have a raging ignorance of doubt, and if I could inspire anybody watching, forget the real estate questions or the ridiculousness of my life. When I look back at who I am and where I've become, I grew up in St. Catharines, in the west end of St. Catharines, which, if you're from the region, is the hill. It's it's the armpit. Sure, I don't mind telling you. And I grew up proudly in the low end of St. Catharines, and I still live just at the outskirts of the area, and I have so many friends and family from the area. Awesome. I was uneducated and did every horrible job that you could. And when I look back at all the successes that I've had over these years, I obviously have to say, how could somebody from this environment have this success? And when I really analyze it, it's that line, that raging ignorance of doubt, because when somebody asks me to do something, I don't say I can't. Because I would rather do it and fail than not have that opportunity. I would like to try something I've never done before. It doesn't matter if I'm painting or shoveling pig manure or if I'm entertaining somebody or doing something. I would rather try it and fail than have not had that experience.
Yeah, and a quick point, and then I want to. I think Kevin O'Leary's mentions, it's like, who becomes the entrepreneurs? It's the C students, because they're not over analytical. Because if you've got not to call it, there's a lot of engineers in this world that we love and need, but they're very logical and analytical people. For instance, this is just one example. So they might not take the same risks. Whereas someone like you and me, and I want to shout out Johnson, we're the kind of guys that we're managing things at a micro and a macro level to an extent, but it's not over should we spend 20 grand or 30 or
jump off the cliff and build the parachute as you fall?
Business is reactive, that, right?
We all have a reason why we can't do something. We always have an excuse. Your back hurts, you're tired, you have to drive the children somewhere, all of that stuff. In 2009, my father passed away. We've all experienced loss. Unfortunately, that's okay. We knew that he was passing, and he passed away. And the day that he passed away, we were talking, and he just said, you cannot stop yourself from doing something. And where he was really going with it, although he didn't use these words, is grief isn't an excuse. So in the middle of the night, he passed away. At 9 a.m., I was on the show Dragon's Den, and I got to deal with all 5 dragons. I shook Kevin O'Leary's hand. And
good for you, man. That's a pretty cool story, honestly.
It would have been so easy to stay home, and there isn't a person watching or thinking that wouldn't allow me my alligator tears and to mourn. But as an entertainer, which is really how I make my living now, the audience doesn't allow you to mourn. The audience doesn't allow you to be sick or have a sore back. They've paid their ticket price, and they expect me as a professional to perform. And I had tears after the show. My character went and performed as it should.
That's like the House Secretary. You must have seen that clip for the White House. his wife died, and he got up there on the podium.
I
he-
thought it
and
was
the
a joke
reporters- Yeah,
almost.
so did I. I thought I couldn't believe it, and so I'm not going to spend too much. But he wanted to drop to his knees behind that podium and bawl. But he said the American people expect me to get up here and deliver this message today. So that's what I'm going to do. So of course I want to cry, and of course I'm sad, but we're going to carry on.
That's right.
And good for you. I mean, my dog just died, and
You still showed up to work the next day.
I missed my MRI because I had my
That's a
kids
personal
and I
thing,
wasn't
but you
supposed
showed
to
up to your
have them.
clients.
Yeah, yeah.
But I showed up. I was back at work at 12 o'clock.
And that should be
So-
the what we're saying here is show up. You have to show up for
Consistency,
yourself.
right?
You have to be the best version of yourself, and how you present who you are and who you want to become is how the public will see you. And if you would like to stay home and find an excuse why you can't do something, that's how you'll be perceived. You have to show up, but you don't have to show up for you or for you or for you. You have to show up for yourself. And you have to know at the end of the day when you lay down that you accomplished something fantastic. We're only here for so many days, and we don't get to choose when that time comes. So what did you do today to make yourself successful for tomorrow?
Make
What
yourself
did
a
you
little
do?
bit better.
The 1% better every day rule.
That's it.
But
That's it.
Going back to your performing and even what you've been able to kind of break down for us in terms of your career trajectory in life, obviously the one thing that jumped out at me was that you seem very resilient, right? In the sense of adversity, you always find a way to kind of power through. But the one kind of message for anyone that I think that was listening to that can come back to is the fact that you showed up for the performance when you easily could have not, right?
Of course.
And a lot of that comes back to the fact that you've built up a name for yourself, which is why you had the opportunity in the first place to be there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you didn't show up, the people that you could have then presented to or spoken to, they don't care about the 1,000 good performances that you'd have done previously. They only care about the one that they expected to see that day.
Look at
right?
the two of you working in the real estate industry in the market. Your reputation is the only reason why you're busy. How people perceive you and how you show up for them and the consistency of how you present is what makes you strong in the market. Nobody recognizes the fault. If you did 99 great things and one bad thing, they will say, look at that time they failed.
And they don't get the client, from the client perspective, from anyone within the same industry as us, no one cares that you might have done 1,000 deals in your life.
Right.
They care about them and their own experience and the way that you made
That's
them
right.
feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Essentially, you guys are the entertainer in
Yeah.
that form. You're presenting yourself as a knowledgeable representation of the market, and they're looking at you to be the superhero, the one that can persevere, get the deal done, make sure that all the I's and are dotted and the T's are crossed. And that's your performance. Your prestige is the check at the end of the day.
Yes.
You only get it because you went there and sold your character to those people and became that best version. And that's how you continue to get those clients.
And that's the way in which that you can provide and show that you show the value that you can bring, is the fact that you can want to make sure that you present that you care about your clients as well, which we all
100%.
do. Because going back to even to what we were saying initially, the education system does not really prepare people for what life brings when it comes to real life finances.
Yeah, and things
they
are-
need that guidance.
Things are changing in many different ways. We've seen how COVID has changed the market and many, many different things in the entertainment industry, how audiences are. And one of the things that I am experiencing as I perform is people's inability to be close or want to touch. Everyone is fearful still as things progress forward.
Sure.
And rightfully so. I mean, COVID is a thing, whether we want to deny it or not. There's reasons why people aren't feeling well because of it. But it's changed how close we get. And I think as an agent or as an entertainer, we have to make everybody feel like they're family or we're close. You can't be afraid to tell somebody.
And make business feel normal.
Of course.
Right? We want to give that, and that's a great point. Is to how do you pivot and sort of modify your ability to give that experience as things are changing.
You have to be a chameleon.
In a way that people are comfortable.
That's
right.
right.
Of
That's
course.
probably the biggest
That's
thing.
sales, right? That's
that way,
sales,
the thing
man.
that you have to overcome now is like for you to do what you do at the highest level that you do it, and everyone go and watch all of Danny's stuff in terms of where it's available. Please plug where possible.
Yeah,
right?
please find me at
But-
Danny
I'm
with
getting- I got some heat
4Zs.com.
coming his way when you're done.
But so the whole idea of it coming back to making everyone comfortable around you is the fact that with COVID, people are scared at times to go to a group setting. Right?
That's right.
But that's what you need in order to make your living for the most part.
100%,
Right.
yeah.
So the idea of making them feel comfortable when they're surrounded by you in terms of the way that you perform, that's something that also goes a long way. And it's no different than within our industry. People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Sure.
Right? And that's
a mouthful right there.
Right.
That should be scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
And,
Right now.
and so
Yeah.
you can have as much knowledge as possible, but if you can't articulate it or present it in a way that someone's comfortable around you,
Yeah.
they're never going to hear it.
That's right.
At the end of the
That's
day.
right.
So the whole idea is with whatever you're doing, make your audience comfortable.
Yep.
So I want you to spend like a good 3-4 minutes straight, and just maybe we can't go back to your 20s, but I want the audience to really know, because right now I still don't think we've done a full job of showing them who you are and what you do. I know you're a host of a radio talk show.
Yeah,
just go into like what you're doing, how you manage. You could even tie in a little bit of balancing 5 kids. My business partner, who we own Orange List together, and some other businesses and buildings and blah blah blah. He has 5 kids. His 6th on the way. So I'm familiar with the demand. And they're very religious. They go to church, and so there's a lot of commitments in their life.
Sure.
So just give them. I just want them to,
How you've
know
allowed
who
yourself
you are,
to,
and and then get into maybe just if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. But I just give them a snippet of who you are and the challenges. I know you mentioned that example with your father, and just give us give them and us a full picture of kind of how you arrived to today, and I'd love to hear.
You know what? I started life younger than I probably should. When I was a young teen, I was homeless. I lived on my own. At a very young age, I started high school living on my own, which had me get a job. Yeah. I had the option. And when I'm old, so back in the day when something like that occurred, it wasn't like now. The services and the resources weren't available. Mm-hmm. So that's probably where my drive came from, because I went to work at a very young age. I graduated high school, and with very little or no experience, I, with my brother, started a tattoo and body piercing franchise.
Cool.
And I just threw myself out there and tried something new. And it was a very interesting time, because right now the market is saturated with tattoo shops. But when we go back to the late 80s, which is when this happened, it was bikers and drug dealers. Like, it was that attitude, right? And we were neither. And because of that, we kind of made our own line in the sand and became a local, certainly in the Niagara region, a stronghold, and the business flourished, and we had tremendous success. At the height of my tattoo industry career, we had 5 tattoo shops and a company manufacturing body piercing jewelry at the beginning of the trend.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the industry took off very, very well, and enough so that it gave me the freedom, the financial freedom, to do whatever you want. Yeah. And I ask this question a lot of times of people: if you had enough money to do whatever you want, what would you do? And when I was posed with that question, I said, I'm going to be a magician.
Yeah.
I'm a loser. In my 30s, I decided that I wanted to do magic, having never done magic before. Again, I threw myself into something that I had never done before. And if you live locally in the area, we have a little mall here in St. Catharines called the Fairview Mall. And there was a guy that sold magic tricks there around Christmas, and I went over and bought some tricks. And I held myself accountable when we're talking about showing up for yourself. As an adult, and I was a father now, and as an adult, I decided if I was going to do this, I needed to jump into it right all the way into it. And I poured myself into it, and within a year, I had signed a contract in Niagara Falls to do 2 shows a day, 7 days a week, which I did for 7 years without missing a day.
So it became a full career.
It became a full career.
Wow. All while still having
the shops.
The shops.
Yeah. So I juggled, and
Can I add before you? Like, that's a huge thing that I want people, and I can relate to you in this way. Is first of all, to give you credit, like, you don't have to abandon one business if you do it properly. You start to hire people. It should be able to run on its own. The thing is, entrepreneurs get stuck working in the business and they forget to work on the business. Yeah. And that's where you might as well go get a job, right? Like,
listen, you have to let the smart people or the handy people or whoever it is. There's a famous story of Ford that I'm sure everybody heard, but if I find somebody who could do a job better than me, I would rather pay them to do it and do what I'm great at
100%.
to afford that luxury. And I got to say that when I look back at the tattoo industry, for me, the staff that I had and the people who worked alongside of me brought me my success. And you have to have a relationship with those people. They're not workers, they're equals. Is one of the things I was
It's not everybody. There's a few. There's you try to build a relationship with both, but you got if you have 10, there's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 excellent key people.
My dad taught me never do a job you wouldn't do yourself. Never make someone do a job you wouldn't do yourself.
100%.
So I'm the first person to go in the ditch with the shovel. I'm the first person to climb in the crawl space.
Always.
And if you have that mentality, your staff will respect you so much more because you're not pointing and delegating. So,
or even when you want to hold someone accountable, they can still respect the fact that you hold yourself accountable as well.
Of course.
Because it's speaking downwards never really works.
And we're all, none of us are educated or without fault. You have to be shown. And if I had the ability to do a job better than somebody who worked with me or for me, it's much easier to sit alongside of them and say, let's do this together and this is how I'd like it moving forward, than to criticize them for not doing what level I achieve. So if I want you to do this great job, this is how I would like to do it, and I'm going to take as much time showing you how to do it until you're better at it.
It's a reflection of the way in which that they were taught, right? At the end of the day. And that's part of when, as a business is growing, is something in which I personally struggle with, is teaching people to do the job, right? In which that they're expected, because a lot of the times, because once you start doing it long enough, in your head it's second nature, but you forget that they haven't done it as long or as much.
Sure. You think they can't do it better than you.
But then you get then you become then you become, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where you just think you do it better, so you do it all yourself anyways, right? When it comes to the tattoo side of things, not to dismiss the magic side, but this is what allowed you to follow like a passion, right?
Of course.
Like, so with within the tattooing industry, like, would you have said that you were a good artist or were you a good operator? In terms of the business,
it's interesting because in the industry, I wasn't good at any of those. I was a good people person. I surrounded myself with good artists and good operators. I was just a good manager because you ever been to a nice restaurant where the cook or a manager comes over and asks you specific questions about your meal? Did you like this? What do you think of the wine?
Absolutely.
And then afterwards you feel good about it because they made you emotionally involved in the experience of that restaurant. So as a manager, I can say to you that my staff far exceeded my abilities. They were all fantastic. But I made a point of going to every booth to talk to people who came in. That was my first entertainment job, was making sure that the customers felt engaged. And that was my strong point, was because my ability to communicate allowed the person who were coming in to get a medical procedure of some form to make them feel calm and comfortable with the artist that was better at it than I was. So with that in mind, we became a stronghold in Niagara with the business because people believed in the product. And from there, if you give a great product at a reasonable price, the business will grow. And that's what gave me the freedom to explore another career.
So you got this cool stronghold, 5 shops, tattoo shops in Niagara. Were they all in Niagara?
Yep.
Okay. You go out on this new venture after
find
learning.
quick
He
success,
got his magic degree at the Fairview Mall, which is sweet. So you're 7 years into this. So I wanted to make the point that we obviously just addressed. What's next?
Well, it was, all of us know the pioneer of escapology, Harry Houdini. It's a name that if everyone in the world doesn't know, I would be shocked.
Yeah, Houdini.
So it was the anniversary of Harry Houdini performing where I performed. I had theater in the old Crown Plaza, the historic Crown Plaza at the base of Clifton Hill. 685 seats, sold out every night. It was the anniversary of Harry Houdini performing at the Crown Plaza, and one of the management came to me and said, the anniversary is coming up. Would you like to do an escape? And I said, yes. And I'd never done an escape.
You never done those?
I had never done an escape ever in my life, but I said, sure. So we live in a world where you just go on Amazon, and I thought, I'll order a straitjacket. Makes sense. And I ordered one, and it showed up, and we came up with this great idea that we would hang me from my feet from a helicopter, and I would escape in Niagara Falls.
Over the, like... so sorry.
It was perceived to be over the falls, but I mean, really, I was over land. If I would have fell,
Yeah, okay.
it would have totally just hurt.
Well, you said you were kind of a wild guy, so I thought you were over the falls.
Tell me we got a
So-
barrel jumper here too.
I showed up having never done it before.
How much time did you have to prepare for this?
No time. I didn't have a helicopter to practice. How do you hang from your
No, but
feet?
when
at
they
your house?
asked you the anniversary was coming up, is that a month, 2 months?
Oh no, it was like 5 days, 7 days.
So when I said like jump off the cliff, build the parachute as you land, you've truly done it.
Oh yeah.
Like-
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
The straitjacket showed up. It came in a nice plastic wrapper that I tore apart like a T-shirt, and I put it on, and they're really meant to hold you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're not meant to get out of. It's pretty incredible. And so I just sat in the living room like an idiot and just practice until I could figure out how to get out of it. I really didn't consider that when you're hanging from your feet, everything changes. So it took a little longer than I would have liked.
Physics and gravity.
No, I told you I wasn't smart. So I escaped, and that was it. We made the video, and
That's so cool.
The company had hired me a helicopter for the whole day, Niagara Helicopters.
Yep.
And it took like 4 minutes, and they're like, "Now what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know," right? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
So we quickly ran to Home Depot, and we made a wooden box. So the idea was I was going to be locked up, put in a bag in a box. They'd fly me up. I'd have a minute to escape. They'd drop the box, and if you know what I mean? Like, that was the idea. So we got all locked up in the box, and they flew the helicopter up there. And after like 5 minutes, they're like, "Hey, are you going to get out?" Oh, I never did this before.
And this is, so you're not in front of, are you in front of audience?
No.
No, this is being recorded. Okay.
So we land. I get out of the box. They're like, "What? How come you didn't get out?" I'm like, "I never did this before." Like, you know what I mean? So we didn't want to waste the day. So they flew the helicopter back up. They dropped the box. It smashed on the ground. They landed the helicopter, hooked me up, flew me up, and then with creative editing, I escaped the box.
Yeah.
And it was good for the video, and that was great. Well, that was me as an escape artist. I faked it, and life went on. Like, about 2 years later, I get a phone call, and this guy, and he's like, "Hey, Dan, it's a Simon, right?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he says, "We see your video of you escape of the box. We want you to come to Italy, escape of the box."
Oh.
So
I didn't actually escape that box.
No. So you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking he's like, "You will send me $20,000. When you get here, I give you 30. You know, like, so I'm like, whatever, Simon, whatever. And because all of us get the call, it's some scam, right? So I'm like, whatever, I'll do it, whatever. And I hung up the phone, and I didn't think anything of it. Life went on. I was a family man, did all of that stuff. Well, then it was like weeks had passed, and it was like Friday. And the phone rings, and I'm like, "Hello," and he says, "Hey, Dan, it's a Simon. We needed the passport. You will fly here Monday." That was my look exactly.
So Friday.
Yeah.
Like,
on Friday, he called me and said,
"That's
"You fly."
the look when he had to look at his wife.
Yeah.
I'm going to Italy.
So he's like, "You come to Italy, you escape of the box," right? So I was like, "Okay," and then so he sent me money and documentation, all of that stuff immediately. So I knew it wasn't a lie.
It was legit.
The next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Italy to escape a box I'd never escaped before.
Oh my God.
Having never done it before, I watched YouTube videos on how to pick locks on the plane on the way to Italy.
So how long ago was this?
Just
This was 5 years ago.
So right, YouTube still wasn't in the YouTube that we know today.
No,
right?
but you could still find what you needed. So I found locks that I bought at Home Depot. I found the YouTube on how to pick them, and for 9 hours drinking scotch.
It's a 9-hour
on
flight. I've
plane,
been, yeah.
I learned how to pick these locks.
That's
So we landed in Italy, and they had a crane and a television thing all set up. And Simon was like, "We're so excited you escaped the box, right?" And so I did what any logical person would do. I sat behind the ambulance and cried. Like I was bawling because I'd never done it before.
Yeah,
and
that's some pressure.
And then you still showed up.
Yeah, I still showed up, yeah. And he comes and says, "It's a time for you to do the box." And my wife and my producer were there, and as God is my witness, I put my hand on both of their shoulders, and I said, "In 5 minutes, this will all be over." And I didn't know that I could escape. I knew I was going to die or I was going to escape. Like there was no... That I knew that.
So they were dropping that box.
Dropping that box. And I went in, and like anything in life. Oh my God. I got a tear in my eye thinking about it.
Dude, this is cool, man. This
you know
is
what?
crazy.
I got in the box, and this order of operations. If anybody thinks there's some magic behind it, there's not. It's order of operations. How a tumbler works in a lock system, a 2-pin lock system. Like, you just have to follow the system. And I had, at that point, I think I had 4 or 5 locks that I had to pick. And they say that it's going to drop in a minute, which it does. But I really got about 2 minutes because trust me, when they put me in the bag, if you think I'm waiting for that timer to start, zero chance. I'm like, ah! Right? Okay.
Yeah, clock ticking.
So I really have a couple more minutes than the timer implies, but I went in and started working the locks. So I can hear the timer, and I'm at 45 seconds, and I've got most of the chains and the locks off, and I have a safety line that when I get out, I clip on so I don't fall to my death. And I'm at 50 seconds, and I'm undoing the bag. 53 seconds, I am undoing the bag, and I'm out of the bag. I'm free, 53 seconds. Well, I pick up the safety line, but because I'd never done this, all the chains and everything were wrapped around the safety line.
It's heavy as shit.
It was so heavy. And even more so, I hadn't considered that on the ground, the box is like this. If you stand, it goes like this, hanging from the crane.
Oh, so it's a whole different dynamic of
I was
trying
at 56 seconds. I got my safety line, and it's about 20 inches above me.
like, so where you're...
I can't reach it. And the box is going to drop. So
You just,
all I could do is jump. All I could do was jump. I had it here. I couldn't reach it.
so you jumped with the...
I had to jump and clip.
Holy
So I leap, and you know what? Like, you're pushing this, so when you push, it pushes down,
Yeah, yeah.
right? You know what I mean? So I leap.
So they're on the ground seeing this box going like crazy.
That's right. I
Yeah.
leap and clip, and I don't think that I clipped, and it almost makes me want to cry.
Oh, man, this is...
I'm
PTSD,
literally like...
my PTSD is right there. But I just put my hands back and accept that that's it. And I literally fall back like this.
And you're hanging.
And the safety line catches me and swings me up. And I hit the hook with such force, I broke my collarbone on my shoulder. And all I could do was hold the line and cry. And they brought me down, and I lived. And I can tell you, I can tell you that even describing it to you for that 10 seconds, I didn't think that I would. And I've told that story, I bet you 100 times, and I can tell you that the emotions associated with that 5 or 10 seconds of my life was probably one of the most extreme moments.
Well, your wife's there.
Everybody's. Well, you know what? I have kids, and so.
Thank you for sharing this. The way you shared it.
Yeah.
This is why this is part of the reason, man. We wanted just some real.
No,
so
it's
the
real,
emotion, the.
Holy shit.
I'm sitting here like I got goosebumps, man.
I'm
listening
sweating
to you.
a lot.
Yeah.
First guest to give me goosebumps like that, man. I'm like.
So when we talk about showing up,
Yeah.
if you have the option to see the video, and please YouTube it, it's beautiful.
I definitely want to watch you break your collarbone.
escape,
So.
and I land, and when I land, the character of who I become goes up to the mic and owns it and says, "I escaped it, and I did it, and life goes on." And it catapulted my career, because when that hit national television, the other countries said, we want you to escape of the box. And it just opened up my life. And I have done many Got Talents. We just came back from Madrid, Spain, where we did Got Talent All-Stars. Cool. And are working on Got Talent Global. And it's brought me on a number of television shows and opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I didn't get in the box. And isn't our life about escaping a box? Like, the honest answer is, your home is the box, your job is the box. We all have to go through specific elements, whether, for me, the honest answer is picking the locks and the shackles. But isn't that what we talked about when you say real estate debt or debt ratio or boss? It's just a number of things and elements that were put before, and we need an order of operations in order to escape those elements so that we can escape the box or move ourselves into a bigger life.
My story is nowhere near as cool as that. But listening, if I had to try to find my moment that gave me, because I was the guy that would have got on the airplane, and I did. I've done those things, maybe not in the same ways, but the moment I walked away from a multiple six-figure contract 3 years into the business, all right, like a big name, and I was for like a month, man, like, did I just kill my business?
Sure.
But this guy was just running us through the mud. He was one of that 80-20 rule, taking up 80% of our time, and like I even got me and my partner, you might watch this, we didn't agree. So now we got a partnership that was like almost flawless. Like it was, those tough moments, but we brought something different. But I stood to it, and I was so ready. I was ready to almost walk away if he didn't back, because I was just like, I'm not living this way. Like, this is, the money isn't worth it. If this
Quality
is
of who
my
you are.
staff don't like my staff are miserable coming to work. But we had this big contract, and it was the money is nice and comfortable when when our business wasn't even doing $1 million in revenue at that point, right? So, not that I'm hanging out of a box about to die, but that moment, like, we honest to God replaced the revenue in less than 8 months. Yeah. Everyone was happier. The ecosystem, the environment, and that to this day, that decision I made, man, and there was tears.
It's an uncomfortable
in my office.
position that you put yourself in, and I think that's where
You
man,
should
and
never
that's just-
exchange your happiness for money.
No.
It's not a good investment.
Yeah, like so. Obviously, we're getting towards the end of the show. What comes after? So, your wife and you go through this experience together, right?
Sure.
Because you're both there. So, like, what, you get on an airplane and just fly home?
Yeah, we
and
flew
then
home.
continue to do it once a month for the last 8 years.
No. I flew home and then went for surgery. Like, I mean, I had really hurt myself, and I needed some corrective surgery.
Yeah.
And
Mental or just the shoulder?
no, mentally, there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
This is a totally different program. I mean,
Yeah.
I need some extensive mental work. But I had to put myself back together, and I'm going to have to say that it was a near-death experience. There's no question that I had given myself up to the fact that I thought that I was falling to my death. 100%. That's not for camera or for you guys. The honest answer is I thought that was it. So I struggled with it for a little while. Even when I went home, I had some PTSD, and I struggled with the experience of it.
Because you're a dad at this point.
Of course.
So
yes.
you're probably questioning yourself, like, why was I willing to do that with? So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that was probably part of your.
All of those things go through your head, and my phone was starting to ring because of it, and it was that spot where not just you or me, but people who are viewing this, it's that point where I had to get off the bus or look at where it was going. And the opportunity that escape opened for me gave me a global audience and an opportunity to pursue something much bigger than I'd have ever experienced.
Risk reward.
And when I consider that I was physically and mentally damaged from that escape, and I was married with children and those responsibilities, and still had a successful business at home, did I want to put myself out there, or should I? Absolutely.
Man,
absolutely.
And would you say that the time spent needing to recover from maybe the shoulder injury allowed you to really determine, is this worth it in terms of pursuing this passion? Or
no, because it was
it something you wanted right away the second it got done?
Because I felt as though I had pushed the boundaries of what I was capable of doing and had success. And because of that accomplishment, it reiterated the fact that I could do anything. And it doesn't mean I can do anything, but it just meant that it reminded myself that the excuses of why I shouldn't succeed are only excuses. I pushed myself past it. I achieved it. I was fortunate to achieve it. But it's okay to challenge yourself.
You needed to sacrifice, like to get to where you're meant to be or where you're capable of going. There has to be some sort of sacrifice.
Yeah,
and for you, it was a big potential sacrifice.
Of course,
more than most entrepreneurs. You might be the
I
only
would
guy.
say 99.9.
Yeah, you might be the only guy we ever have on here that like literally put his life on the line. And dude,
and you know what? those challenges have opened up a world of opportunity. If it wasn't for that challenge, and the ones that I've had many more, but if it wasn't for that first experience and that near life and death experience that pushed me to that, I wouldn't be hosting this show. And I am. It's Danny Zzzz, and I am sitting with my guests today, Eric and Johnson. And
Thanks for having us, man.
Listen, it was really exciting having you guys here, and I appreciate you coming forward and talking about the market and things that are happening. And equally, perhaps we could have you back again.
You're coming back.
100%.
This is go ahead, Johnson. I'm sorry.
I can't say enough about how fulfilling this conversation was.
Oh, I'm glad.
Obviously,
I could sit here for like 5 hours.
for sure. And I think this is something that is obviously going to resonate with the audience.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I made the joke off camera that like the show is masters of the market. You've become a master of many markets. Obviously, whatever you've whatever you've thrown yourself into, you've found success. And that's what we hope that our audience will be able to find. But at the same time, also want the ability to give them real stories that can hopefully change their perspective on things, which you've shown a great ability to
And
do.
you know what? As we wrap this up, I will say it's easy for me to share the accolades of the things that I've been successful. I have failed many times. We're not measured by those failures if we don't use them to achieve success. So if we wanted to do a whole episode on everything that I failed, we probably would need 4 or 5 episodes. I just never allowed it to hold me into a position that prevented me from moving forward, which is what we all need to do.
And amen. I commend you for that, for real. And the part I want to sort of add before we do allow the curtain to close as an entertainer, it's cool, like, he's a mortgage, like, we're doing good things. We're proud of ourselves. We take care of our families. We got stabbed, blah, blah, blah. But I think you've really pursued personal dreams, it sounds like.
Sure.
And it's not like I don't love what I do. I'm not passionate about it. But, you know, if you don't think I've never thought about sitting on stage playing a guitar, I have. But I've just never, you know, and the fact that you've actually done things that you were interested in. And it wasn't I didn't gather money from anything of what you said. I really didn't. You did well. You sold your business and and your wife you guys were comfortable, but not one point in this entire conversation. And yes, it is about making money to a degree.
Sure.
You need to pay your bills and take care of your kids, but it was so much passion.
Yeah.
And if that changes one person's life, or even just give them a little bit of confidence to be like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna, like, that is what
And
this episode
I'll
was
say
all
my
about.
goodbyes with this. If I could inspire anybody with this, I am a 53-year-old proud father who has nothing left on his bucket list.
How many people can say that?
That should be everyone's dream, and I'm excited to hear more about all the
You're
things that you
coming
have,
back. You
have
are
accomplished,
coming
because you are
back.
coming back to Masters of the Market,
Yeah.
hosted by Eric Johnson and now Danny Zzzz.
Thank you,
so
man.
much. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for checking in today. You know, we had like goosebumps and tears. Like, this was wild today. So I know you guys are going to appreciate this as much as we did. I didn't feel like a host there. I was just like
we said, Danny's
I
the
was
new
like
host.
sitting in
I
the
felt like a
audience,
host.
just like a sponge absorbing information. So he's coming back. Johnson and I obviously want more, and we want you guys to have more. So we appreciate you guys checking in. And one more time to Danny Zzzz. He's a radio host. Going to get into that in episode 2. All the cool shit that he probably does there as well. So thanks again, man. And yeah, today was awesome.